Hey, welcome guys. Happy Sunday. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a good weekend, you're enjoying it, and you're getting ready for another week ahead. Today we are going to talk about a couple of things. Of course, we're going to talk about the war, which is a very hot topic and things are escalating. I'm going to show you a couple of videos. We're going to talk about Bitcoin's next move, the altcoins, and how we are positioning and what we are looking at right now. I hope you can see the comments popping up. Can you guys see those? Last time we had challenges, but I hope this time is better. And I hope also my connection is stable. If somebody can confirm in the chat. Okay. Let me show you a couple of videos first. We'll start with that. Something that happened yesterday. I'll show you the first one and then the second one. I'll just bring it over here. Let's see if I can bring it. Okay, thanks for confirming. 1 second. Let me minimize this and then I'm going to bring that here. I hope you guys have seen that. That was one of the videos, and then the other one is pretty long, but then Trump obviously had he held a meeting after this. It's a pretty long one. We're not gonna...
Well, thank you very much. That was very unexpected, but
he says that's very unexpected.
Acted upon by Secret Service and law enforcement, and this was an event dedicated to freedom of speech that was supposed to bring together members of both parties with members of the press, and in a certain way it did, because the fact that they just unified, I saw a room that was just totally unified. It was...
That's pretty long, but we're not gonna dwell much on that, obviously. He says it was pretty unexpected. I saw on media today they're saying that it's being staged. Obviously, we don't know what the truth is behind all of this, but all we can see that things are escalating. And I personally think that something very big is being prepared right now. And all of these games, for example, they're meeting in Pakistan on Sunday. All the information, this is kind of small games that have been played. And I think the purpose of that is to win some time before this big thing will happen. It's just time winning events and small games that we see. But I personally think something very big will happen over the next couple of weeks, which will impact Bitcoin pretty much. But we'll talk about Bitcoin's price move shortly, where that goes. In the meantime, this man, Michael Saylor, which you guys know, he's one of the most confident men in Bitcoin. And he just made a very bold call just recently. He said that Bitcoin winter is over, not slowing down, not just recovering. It is over. And that statement kind of split the market into two positions. On one side, you have Michael Saylor, who says that Bitcoin has changed permanently. Institutions are now the main buyers, and spot ETFs open the floodgates for capital. This is his position, and he says that supply is shrinking, which is fact after the 2024 halving, and long-term holders are not selling. Basically, his conclusion is that old brutal cycles don't work the same anymore. Dips get heavily bought, there is no breathing time for Bitcoin, crashes get absorbed, and winter fades. And if you see today, even he said the beat goes on, and he's hinting at buying one more Bitcoin. Sailor is a liar. Yeah, we're going to talk about that shortly, because obviously his thesis is in his interest. He holds more than 6 or 7%. I might be wrong with the exact percentage, but he has a pretty good chunk of Bitcoin supply. So obviously it's in his benefit, in his interest to keep pushing Bitcoin. But he actually has the power to do so, because previous cycles were pretty much led by Sailor, the previous cycle in particular, pretty much by Sailor, and also the spot ETFs. So I think this upcoming cycle will also be driven by these two factors. Now, this is his thesis. Then we got some serious analysts pushing back to what Michael Saylor says. You have Matty Greenspan, who says Bitcoin still depends on macro. If liquidity tightens, everything, including Bitcoin, can drop, which is true. I'll talk about liquidity shortly. We also have Jason Fernandez, who says cycles don't disappear, but calling winter over right now is way too early, and this will make investors overconfident and at the same time very vulnerable, which again is a very good point. And you also have you also get the Benjamin Cowan, who is you're probably aware of. He says that cycles are evolving, they are not gone, and we can still get sharp corrections inside this long-term uptrend. And I very much agree with this, because we're if you ask me about the long term of Bitcoin, we are definitely going higher. But in the short term, I see big crash coming. We will talk about this again shortly. So there is a real shift happening. We can't deny that. The control of Bitcoin is changing for sure. Old markets were, retail driven, emotional, volatile. The new markets are institutional, they are slower, and they are more calculated. So this raises one question. If then institutions keep buying, you have BlackRock, you have Fidelity, you have Michael Saylor, if all of these are buying, then why we have the crashes? Who causes the crash? Definitely not retail anymore. But we have the macro shocks. Macro shocks can still crash Bitcoin. And if you look at the Fed balance sheet, you can see that from mid-2025 up to the end of 2025, the liquidity, the balance sheet was shrinking, and this created the big crash over here and the downtrend that we saw. But then since then, up to now, we have expansion of the balance sheet, which means more liquidity is coming into the space. And obviously you can see that from Bitcoin's price. Bitcoin has been moving upwards for the past few months. If we go onto the weekly chart over here, well, that's not very good, but it will serve us a good purpose. You can see Bitcoin has been in an uptrend, and that's perfectly aligning with the balance sheet expansion, which means more liquidity. So in a nutshell, what we've got now, we have three scenarios. If Michael Saylor is right, institutions keep buying, supply stays tight, Bitcoin trends up steadily, which is one, which in the long term, yes, that is true. But in the short term, I think analysts are right. They say that macro can turn negative, and I think we're going to see that with inflation keeping up and the impact of the war. I think we'll see liquidity being shrinked. Institutions will de-risk and markets will drop hard. This is the second scenario that we have. And the third one, both are right, which is more likely. Long-term uptrend driven by institutions, which is what we're going to see, and short-term volatility driven by macro. All I'm going to say now is that we need to be prepared for both realities, because the market is not that simple now. It's more complex. There are a lot of variables, a lot of unknowns that keep changing. And the main factor that is driving all of this right now is the war. It's something that we've not seen. It's something new. And we don't know how Bitcoin and riskier assets to react to all of this. Cryptovania, hi, good to see you here as well. Now, even if you look at Ethereum, Ethereum is very undervalued at this stage. It's sitting like 50% below the all-time highs that we had over here. 3 times. We're sitting like 50% below that almost. And there are 3 different types of money in crypto right now. You've got fast money. This is money that reacts to news and flows in and flows out pretty quickly. You have slow money, accumulating, holding, accumulating, holding. You have structural money. That's long-term adoption, regulation, institutions. You have 3 types of capital that we're talking about here. And Bitcoin in particular is dominating two types. Bitcoin is dominating the fast money that reacts to news, flows in and flows out pretty quickly. Especially traders do that, and also the structural money. Money that is for long-term adoption, regulation, and institutions. But Ethereum, on the other hand, Ethereum is dominating the second one, the slow accumulation phase. We see even Tom Lee keeps accumulating, and other people. Ethereum is the capital that people put money into Ethereum and hold it for a longer term. Now, there is another piece of information that people are also missing or kind of not focusing on at this stage. That is Bitcoin's dominance. We've not talked about that either for some time now. Bitcoin the dominance just broke above 60%. And that's important because this cycle is not going to be like the previous cycles either. In previous cycles, what we got, I'm sure you're familiar with this, but in previous cycle, you had this kind of rotation for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the altcoins. First, you get money flowing into Bitcoin. Then the second phase is money flows into Ethereum. Ethereum hits new all-time high, and then money starts to flow into high capitalization altcoins, those that are solid layer ones with fairly big market cap. We see that happening, and then the last phase is the so-called out season, where everything just goes parabolic, regardless of price, regardless of utility, regardless of team, regardless of tokenomics. Nothing matters, just everything goes parabolic. We see the so-called fear of missing out, and we just see this kind of everything skyrocketing. Unfortunately, now new money is entering the market, but it's going straight into Bitcoin, stays there, and then moves out. We don't see this rotation, just enter into Bitcoin and exit. And there is a bigger layer to all of this. Bitcoin is behaving like a macro asset. It's reacting to the dollar, it's reacting to the stock market, to global events. It's not just about crypto itself anymore. It is part of the financial system. This is what we call the financial system integration. So right now, what we have is Bitcoin on one side, which is kind of the institutional asset, and then Ethereum, which is still being valued like a growth or tech play. And people are buying and holding for a longer term. Betting on Ethereum for a longer term until it hits new all-time high. That's what we have. And I personally think that everyone should hold, maybe not the 2 assets, but at least one of them. But as I say, there are 2 different types of assets with completely same market, completely different positioning. Bitcoin, as you see, institutional. Ethereum still high betting play with potential and growth momentum. So I think everyone should hold. If you can't have the 2, at least have one of those 2. And I often see still the mistake that people make. They are making decisions based on price. Look at Bitcoin, 70k. Oh, that's too expensive. I've missed the train. Looking at Ethereum already sitting at 2.5k, that's extremely expensive. So these are expensive. Let me go and buy Pepe or Shiba Inu or some random meme coin that's at 0.0000, I don't know how many zeros, one. So and they lose. If they invest it into Bitcoin, goes to 200k by the end of 2027, and they'll be, oh wow, I should have bought that. It was so expensive. I think people should understand which type of money is driving the price, because if you don't understand that, you're always reacting instead of positioning, and that's a mistake that people make. Okay, we talked about that. We talked about Ethereum. Now, I want to talk about something else before we move on to altcoins and what's Bitcoin's next move. Arcadia, welcome. Howdy, Sarah. All good, thanks. Enjoying the Sunday. Okay, now it's time for Robert Kiyosaki. I'm sure that a lot of you are familiar with him, probably read his book as well. He has been talking about something very interesting. He is saying that 2026 is not going to be just another ordinary dip. It's going to be the kind of event where people not just lose money, they lose everything that they have. Savings, retirement, security. I know this sounds extreme, but this is what he has been talking about. It's not a financial advice. By the way, we are just going to talk about his words briefly, what he says, and what is driving his statements. He has been saying this for actually decades now. He didn't just say it now. He's been talking about this for some time, and he's warning about a system collapse that is coming. As you can see, this article is named Biggest Bubble in History. His worldview comes down to one idea. The system isn't broken by accident. It's designed that way. Money can be printed infinitely, which is true. Debt keeps expanding. If you look at the U.S. national debt, debt keeps expanding, and savings slowly lose value over time. His argument is very simple. He says that if something can be created infinitely, obviously it can be devalued infinitely, which makes perfect sense. And as you can see, the US national debt keeps rising, over 39 trillion. The global debt over 300 trillion. Interest payments over 1 trillion per year. That means the system is now spending more on debt than on some of its core functions, like healthcare, security. This is not my opinion. This is what the numbers say and the maths. And also he says something, now I'm coming to the core part of it. Every time the system breaks, they fix it the same way. In 2008, money was printed. In 2020, even more money was printed. But now interest rates, as we know, are already high. We expect to see interest rates maybe stay stable, or even there are talks about interest rate hikes. Debt is already massive. So what happens when the next crisis hits? There is nothing left to use. And he's been warning of this now for years, and he has been positioning for years into gold, into silver, and real assets, these three. But recently he's been very clear about one particular thing, and that is Bitcoin. And the reason is very simple behind all of this. Bitcoin is the opposite of the current system. We have fixed supply, 21 million, as you can see over here, that will ever exist. No central control. It's global, 24/7 market. It can't be printed. It can't be inflated. So while retail investors, are still debating Bitcoin, institutions are already positioning, already moving. You've got BlackRock, you've got Fidelity Investments. They're not guessing, they're allocating. And institutions, as you know, they don't move based on hype like us retail investors. They are hedging something. But of course, Bitcoin is not guaranteed. It's still pretty volatile. It's risky, still evolving, but it's definitely a good option to have. So basically, that's what he's saying. You lose all your savings in 2026. So do something. Invest into gold, invest into silver, Bitcoin. And to be honest, the best option right now, in my opinion, is Bitcoin. Why? Because if you look at stocks, S&P 500, already sitting at all-time high, pretty much at high record. Silver, the same. Gold, the same. The only asset that is undervalued at this stage is Bitcoin. It's 50% below its all-time high, whereas everything else is really sitting at all-time high. And in my opinion, what we're going to see over the next couple of weeks or months, now let's talk about Bitcoin's next move. Are there any comments in the meantime? Anything that you guys want to add? I'm doing great, thank you. Good Sunday. Today I went for a walk. Pretty long walk. It was very nice. I dropped some photos on Discord. I'm sure my Discord members saw that. Made it. Hey, good to see you. Hi, hi, hi. How are you guys? How you're enjoying your weekend? For those who are joining late, you can rewatch the replay later on. We talked about a lot of things, about the altcoins, about Bitcoin's dominance, Michael Saylor, some other famous people, Federal Reserve balance sheet. We talked about different things, but now the interesting part is coming up. Altcoins and Bitcoin's next move. So what I think is Bitcoin's next move. We're coming to the top of this channel. We're coming to the top of this channel, and Bitcoin's next move, in my opinion, will be a retrace. A retrace back to the lower part of this channel. As you can see, we've been following this pattern perfectly. Let me show it to you in this way. Okay, that's better representation. Yeah, since the big drop we had, we've been going up, and now we are coming to the top of this channel. What I think is going to happen, if you look towards the, where is the rectangle here? If you look towards this side, one second, I'm bad at drawing. Okay, over here there is some liquidity that needs to be grabbed. There is some liquidity that needs to be grabbed at this level. So what I personally think is going to happen, Bitcoin will go up here over the next 2 weeks. Might be more than that, might be less than that. It depends. We can see a week extending to the 81, 82k level. Grab that remaining liquidity over here and retrace back to the lower side of this channel. Then once it comes down to the 60s, 69, 68, where we go next would be obviously dependent on the geopolitical information, the geopolitical situation, where the war is going to, how long it lasts for. We can have another leg to the downside, which is very similar to the pattern we had. If you look here, we had a very similar pattern earlier this year, after which we saw this big crash over here. So we are now exactly the same scenario. We'll come first to the downside of this channel, and then I personally expect us to go one leg down and hit the 50s by Q3 or early Q4 of this year. This is my expectation, and this is what I'm personally positioning for, and this is what my accumulation strategy also is based on. I've dropped that on Discord. If you guys want to join us on Discord, we just added 2 new projects this week, one meme coin and one AI project. So hopefully by the next 2 weeks we would make some good profits. You'll find link under the video, under this live stream, and under any of the videos that I upload. So that's, in my opinion, Bitcoin's next move. First, we go to 81, 82, and then we start coming down again. Be ready for surprises, of course. Market, as I said, is not that simple anymore. It's a little bit more complex because we have a lot of unknowns, a lot of variables that we need to take into account. And let's see how the altcoins are doing in the meantime. Let me know what you're guys most bullish on right now, this week. What is your top pick that you're buying? Okay, we see XMR 8%, Monero. As I've been saying, privacy coins would be top performers, in my own opinion, in the upcoming cycle. Aerodrome, good project. I used to hold that. I don't anymore. I sold my position. Pi, okay. I know a lot of people hold Pi and they've been mining it. We see some strength in the meme coins again. Look at Trump, 4.5%. Look at Pengo, 3.4%. You've got Pepe at 2% increase for the day. Good increases over the board. Ondo, good to see Ondo waking up. Ondo and Sei, these are massively undervalued projects. And I think people start to realize that institutions for what they can do and comparing the price to what actually these projects do. Ondo and Sei, good. What are you guys most bullish on? Drop that in the comments. Okay, big increases over here. Rave, just be careful with Rave. This is what I'm going to say. Be careful with Rave because you guys saw what happened. Rave went up to almost $30. Now it's worth nothing really. It crashed 30x. Crashed 30 times. I'm sure a lot of people lost money here. So be careful, don't be fish to to get caught again on this. Once it's dead, once it dumped, it will dump back again. Even if you see it going now again to $5, a lot of people will start jumping thinking that it's gonna go higher. But once it dumps, it will dump second time. Just be cautious there. River. That's a meme, pretty interesting meme. Gain momentum, gain hype, but we added a different meme with very good potential in my opinion. Interesting. We added 2 new projects, AI, because I think AI has got the momentum right now. And I believe in AI for this cycle as well. We added an AI project, but these picks are not for long term. These are some short term projects that we are hoping to make some gains over the next week or so. Not for a long term investment. Long term, I'll be accumulating my typical projects that you know about already. See, Caspa, Sei, what else have I got? Solana, of course. Potentially I'll add maybe Ondo to my portfolio, or maybe Virtuals, or maybe Tau. I've not decided yet. But right now, as I said, I expect Bitcoin's next move to be down to the 60s again. And if that happens, we'll see obviously altcoins dropping by another 10-15%. And this is where I would start buying back. Okay, well, if no more comments, no questions, then we'll leave it here, and I'll see you again throughout the upcoming week. Have a great week. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you again soon.